Do something, man. People are questioning you.
Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the dub cast. Alrighty, welcome back to another UFC podcast. This time we will be predicting UFC 316, two title fights, O'Malley versus Merab, and then Kayla Harrison taking on champ Juliana Pena. So excited to be here for this card. I'm sure there's a lot to get into. We have 13 fights, but as always, before we start with this card, we got to rewind to last card, UFC 315. So Shane, welcome back. You were able to join me for UFC 315 podcast. What were your thoughts on UFC 315 and how did your bets go?
Dude, my bets went actually amazing. I'm trying to load up right now my for some reason it's not loading up. I'm trying to remember what exact leg fell, but I remember it was literally, I know I say this every single time I'm on this show, but I was literally off by one leg. I predicted Jack Medellina. I remember that.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, dude. I want to go back because it is not loading up for me right now. But yeah, dude, I loved this card. This card was just so exciting for me. I got to catch the end of it with my homie Joey and my homie Matt, and that was a cool. I really love this card in terms of like just watch. I don't know if I'm in the minority here, but I really enjoyed this card 315.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a good card because I mean, coming in there wasn't a lot of hype. Obviously, it's a Bilal like main event, so people are kind of sour on it. But I think this provided like there was a lot of stuff we could talk about, especially on the main card. But I mean, the early prelims didn't really disappoint either. Obviously, I think that fight between JDM and Bilal, like that was one of the better title fights we've seen in a while.
It got fight of the month, and I just checked, by the way. The leg that fell was Alexa Grasso.
Okay,
It was Alexa Grasso losing, and that was tough. And I'm pretty sure you also had her.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
So pretty good card, honestly. I think definitely it was a better card because it succeeded expectations. Like we weren't expecting that going in. Got a great fight between Bilal and JDM. Even the Fioro Valentina, we'll get into it. So unfortunately, my picks 1 and 4. I actually didn't do that bad overall, but just the picks I seemingly give for the cast at the end are pretty bad. So maybe I got to work on a strategy for that. Overall records 28 and 38. Probably about even with the way UFC betting is with the units and stuff. So anything on the early prelims, we had Marc-Andre Barriault defeats Bruno Silva. I think you were on that one maybe, but I'd said whoever would lose would be eliminated or cut from the UFC. Bruno Silva actually had like a very scary knockout. I think he got sent to the hospital, but he was cut from the UFC. And now Marc-Andre Barriault, he is going to advance to face Shara in Abu Dhabi. So what are your thoughts on this one? Did you catch this one or?
Oh yeah, no, I watched this whole card through. And yeah, this was one that I did see. I believe that I saw coming. I don't really remember that much, but it was a scary knockout. It was definitely one of the like scarier, like show-stopping knockouts. But yeah, it does suck seeing someone get cut, but it also is good to preserve their health instead of having to keep on fighting. And yeah.
I don't know much about like the Bruno Silva stuff, but I feel like he would have just kept on trying to fight. And I think he's been knocked out like 3 or 4 times in a row. It's like you got to take care of yourself before. So that was my only one from the early prelims.
I had one more for the early prelims. I believe
Okay.
Was Navajo Sterling in the early prelims, or was that
I think he was like technically the first fight in the prelims. I was going to talk about that one anyway, so you can go ahead on that one.
I don't know if you remember, but that was one that I was very highly anticipating. It was a guy that I saw when he first made his UFC debut. I was like, okay, this guy kind of like it's not a very similar fight style, but it's a very similar vibe of RDR. Where it's like when I saw him go up against Mershart, and I was like, okay, I could really see this guy going on a run, and then he knocks out Bo Nickel. I could see Navajo Sterling getting some unlucky, like up and coming contender who like everyone loves in the light heavyweight division. I can't really think of one off the top of my head, but I could totally see Navajo Sterling getting that guy next, and then just maybe upsetting him depending on what kind of a fan you are or what the sports books say. But I really like Navajo Sterling moving forward in here. It wasn't as dominant of a performance in terms of like a finish, but I mean, like if you look at the fight itself, like he was
very technical. I thought was my
very much
like,
so.
he was like, no, he definitely can win a fight in the future. I'm looking forward to him in the future as well. Next one, unfortunately, your guy Charles Radke, Mike
That was
Malott
the other one. That was
takes
the
him
other one
down. Yeah,
that I realized right below or 2 fights below frickin' Alexa Grasso was or 2 fights below Charles Radke. I really thought he would come in there with a different type of energy, and it it just fell short. And I just remember watching this, like I'm getting the memories back now of watching Mike Malott doing his like heartfelt speech, and me being a couple drinks in and being like, man, forget you, dude. Like, I just wanted to see my freaking American come in here and do his thing, and he's just doing this. Oh my god! But realistically, I rewatched it. It's a good speech and everything. I like Mike Malott. I love to see an American go in enemy territory and win, especially when he's talking that much shit. But
yeah.
it was tough. It was tough to see.
He could have a potential Brian Battle moment, but unfortunately,
Exactly.
Mike Malott. I don't think moving forward, like he's kind of a risky pick, but there could be moments where he could just knock somebody out randomly. I do think he's somewhat of like a decent fighter. So
Yeah. And he's got good ground game too. Like it's not like super deadly, but I think you could definitely I could see someone getting caught in there, you know?
I agree. Anything from the prelims before we head on to the main card?
Yes. Another one that I was very big on. My girl Jasmine
Yes, you
Jesuitius.
were. Yeah.
I love her, and she again pulled out. Whenever I see her name, I bet on her now. Like again, this was like the one where I was like against Jessica Andrade of all people. Like I love to see that. I love to see that.
Was Jessica Andrade ranked? Is she now, or I don't know what? Maybe she
She
was ranked
definitely
before.
was ranked before this fight. I want to
Yeah.
let me check really quickly.
Yeah, that was a very impressive win. Like I said on the pod, like I was a little concerned about her going against Jessica Andrade because like Jessica
Exactly. I
Andrade
was
can
too.
just like maybe fraud check people if she wants to sometimes. But I don't know. It seems like she's kind of on the way out. Not to take away from Jasmine. Like Jasmine seems like a beast. So I'm excited to see. I feel like in the middle of these women's divisions, there's some like fun prospects coming up. Maybe it's not going to be the same old.
She is now 8th, and Jasmine Jesuitius is 6th.
Okay,
So
there you go.
huge movement in
top
the
5.
lightweight
Yeah.
rankings.
Okay, so Jasmine, Mike Malott both get it done in Canada. We can skip over Benoit. We kind of knew what we were walking into, and he was like
Yeah,
minus
exactly.
1,400 on that one.
Yeah, guy coming in like if Kyle did it, then we'd have something to talk about here.
Yeah,
but yeah, I agree. We can just move on.
good for Benoit to have one in the W, or have one in the W column. But
He
like
needed
that
one. He needed one bad.
So, former champ Alexa Grasso does the trilogy with Valentina. Unfortunately, I actually didn't pick this fight. I just left it alone because I was worried about, former champ at plus odds. It was kind of giving me weird vibes. But Natalia Silva, man, she looks pretty good.
She looks really
If
good.
I think if they don't make that super fight, she's up next for the title shot. Grasso, I don't know. I don't want to be like too mean on like fighting technique, but she wasn't like doing much. I felt like
No, it
Natalia
did
was
seem very
dominating.
timid. It did.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree with you. It seemed very timid from what I saw.
Yeah, I was with a couple of guys, and one of them had Grasso, and it was just like, dude, you're not winning this bet. Like,
it sucked to
she
see.
hasn't thrown anything like the whole fight.
Luckily, I had seen Radke lose before that, so I do remember now. The Grasso one was a little bit less of a loss, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, Natalia Silva, I'm excited. Maybe she'll get a shot soon. It's all pending on that kind of Zhang Wei Li, Valentina potential super fight. I don't know if the calendar's going to line up for that when that would be.
And if that does happen, I think realistically, now that I'm looking at the way that the rankings are, I think it makes more sense for Valentina to move up than for Zhang Wei Li to move down. But Zhang Wei Li has more of the resume to move down than to get the super fight. But it's just because you see Aaron Blanchfield and Macy Barber, which I'm sure we're going to get into later.
Yep.
And that's also in the same division as Natalia Silva, which I think it doesn't create a logjam, but it creates an interesting situation depending on what the UFC decides to do.
Yeah, I was listening to a good guy, bad guy episode. I think it was last week before the Barber Blanchfield fight was supposed to happen, and they're mentioning like maybe you do a contender fight between Silva and the winner of that fight while you wait for the super fight.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm interested in
I like that
Silva. Like
idea.
I feel like she's not gonna be a boring fighter, so we'll see what's in the future for her.
Very true.
Next one, this one, if I hit this one, would have made everything. But Jose Aldo, I've never seen this before, and maybe you could correct me. I've never seen a fighter like directly stare at the clock as much as he did in that. I think it was the third round. I don't know if I've ever seen that in a UFC fight where it was like he was so clearly gassed. He was waiting for the time to run out.
To be honest, I feel like he was doing that a decent amount in the Mario Bautista fight, which would end up costing him that fight in there. But
Yeah,
also, there's definitely more examples that I'm forgetting.
I'm sure
But
it's not the
I'm
only
sure
one,
that
but it's like
I'm sure the
that was just
comments
that's
could
what's
tell
yeah.
us.
That's what stuck out to me. I mean, Aldo had as the fight went on, he got worse and worse. Like the first round, he clearly won.
It was very, yeah,
You and I
it was so
disagreed. I think
similar.
I had my betting mindset because I was like Aldo to win. It felt like the same
And
thing
I
happening over and over again against. I mean, I will say he probably lost both fights to Bautista and Zahibi. At least Zahibi was like doing shit and not just holding up against the cage. Like,
exactly.
that round 3 was a war. So this was actually ended up being a good fight.
Exactly. There's
Yeah.
a very start because it's the same exact thing on the scorecards. And I think most UFC fans can see this. It's the same exact scoring on the scorecards, the fight between Bautista and Zahibi, or Bautista and Aldo, and then Aldo and Zahibi.
Yeah.
And but they're such different fights. Like the stock should go so much higher for Zahibi here, but obviously since Aldo's a lower ranking fighter at this point in time than when he fought Bautista the fight before, Bautista's now getting patchy mix, which we'll get into later.
For sure.
But yeah. Now that was a great fight. I really enjoyed that fight. I don't think it was a terrible fight for Aldo. But it was in my opinion, a clear loss. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that the round 2 is the point of
Contention, yeah.
yeah, because round 3 was definitely Zahibi, round 1 was definitely Aldo. But Aldo is apparently done. This is it for him in the UFC. I mean, it just kind of sucks that he came back for this to happen where he loses to Bautista like this. And then, I mean, I blame him more for the Zahibi loss than I do for the Bautista loss. Like, granted, he probably could have maybe done some more against Bautista, but I don't know. I felt like he was pretty gassed out, so maybe it was time for him to call it. Especially if you're like a legend, former champ, and you're just gonna like keep losing to these kind of, I don't want to say middling contenders, but like you're not going for another title. I don't think Aldo really had another title run in his future. So, anything to say about the final fight, most likely of Aldo's career in the UFC? I'm sure maybe there's some other promotion that'll take him on for
Hey,
something.
if there's anything that ex McGregor fighters like to do, is they like to go into bare knuckle boxing. And I think, or even just ex people that McGregor would beef with, because you had Frankie Edgar, you had Jeremy Stevens, and I think Aldo, personally, as someone who really likes Aldo, I would rather him just have a great retirement, live it out with his family and stuff, and maybe do some Brazilian commentating, because I know that there's a lot of opportunities for that for fighters that speak other languages that we don't see as an English speaking audience. But I think I do kind of see this evil trajectory, this dark path of Aldo going into bare knuckle boxing and just it getting not as fun to watch. But we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like even his comeback now is like pretty disappointing just for the way it ended up happening.
Yeah,
But
totally.
we'll see what happens with Zahibi. Like I thought that was a good fight for him. I don't know what's really next up in the the bantamweight division.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if he's gonna.
it's probably either the loser. It's probably going to be the loser of Bautista Pachi or somewhere around that ranking.
Yeah,
Because
I mean, yeah, that's a fun fight depending on what happens. So now we get to our title fights. Valentina, razor sharp win over Fiorot. Our good friend Jake, he was with me. He was being mad mush. I was like, I got Valentina. And then he was like scoring a lot of rounds for Fiorot. I do think this was a very close fight.
I really like Fiorot coming into this too, but
Yeah.
I had my money on Valentina, and it was like, it was close, dude. And
It was very close.
this is Fierro was one of like when I first started getting back into MMA and stuff, like, or first really getting into MMA, to be honest. Fierro was one of the people that was coming up, like getting in the French cards, and I was like, oh damn, she's actually like killing shit. Like she's actually a really entertaining women's fighter, and I'm really excited to see what she does next in the flyweight division. I think her versus Natalia Silva would be a great fight, and screw what Aaron Blanchfield says, and make fucking Aaron Blanchfield fight Macy Barber again. Like I don't care. Like I don't know. I think she's a very exciting fighter and very exciting, and I'm very excited to see what she does in this division.
Yeah, I mean, when you say Fiorot, that like sparks something inside me. That it's like, oh, I could be excited to see her fight. When it's like Blanchfield and
Exactly.
Barber, it's like I feel like I know what I'm getting out of those two women.
Exactly.
So
She has that aura.
yeah. So I think was that Fiorot's first loss, or I forget her. I forget like I don't know how this fight was
She was
going.
on a win streak. I believe it was, yeah, it's her first loss in the UFC. First
Okay,
loss in the UFC.
all right,
That's huge for her. First off in the UFC to Valentina Shevchenko in a title fight,
yeah.
dude.
And I don't think Valentina's going to be here forever. I think maybe she's going to line up this
Exactly.
super fight, and then depending on how that goes, maybe we'll have like maybe a little bit victory or not victory retirement tour. So that division actually could be fun at the top once it opens up.
Go on.
This fight though was weird. It wasn't the most entertaining fight, to be honest. I just remember like being like kind of. It was interesting and like technical, but it was like I don't know who's winning this fight. It was so like unclear to judge this one really. Um,
I think that I can understand those being like a little bit more boring, but if anything, those kind of have me more on my seat because like especially
yeah,
when I'm like, there's only 2 fights left in the card, and I've watched so many fights before this, and I'm like, we're all fight fans, we have a couple brewskis with it. I'm at this point, I'm like just labor focused in, and I'm like, oh, maybe I'm scoring this wrong, maybe I'm seeing it wrong, or I just need to see what the judges say and what the official outcome is going to be. And these are the type of fights that have me like on the edge of my seat. And the fight that we're going to get onto after is also like I feel like those are the two greatest fights to see at the end of a thing, like a close,
yeah,
hard
decision.
to judge decision. As long
Yeah,
as the decision doesn't go like the complete wrong way, I think it's only good for the sport because it just adds discussion.
yeah. Well, let's talk about it. So JDM, performance of a lifetime in my opinion. I mean,
Oh yes,
we both chose him, and I thought it was more of a pipe dream than like an actual reality. Like
me too.
I was more going like anti Bilal than actually pro JDM, but that dude
Yeah,
looked like impeccable. Like I'm still very impressed by that performance. That performance is gonna like stay in my head for a while. And now, we'll get to the other news in the UFC, which this fight obviously indicated a couple things happening. But I'm excited for this next fight for JDM. Like, I think there is a real chance. I'm wondering about those odds against Islam. Um,
yeah.
I don't know. Well, let's talk about this one first, though. So, JDM, I mean, clearly wins 4 rounds. There was one judge who, if like JDM kind of fumbled the 5th round, I think they might have just given Bilal the decision.
Yeah.
I know there was a controversial scorecard in there, but JDM, he had no doubt at all. Like you had to give him at least 3 or 4 rounds. Like
It was
takedown
beautiful.
defense, yeah, it was just everything. It was a masterful performance. On it, like I'm trying to think of like championship fights this year. Like Drikas against Sean was a domination, but like we kind of knew Sean was like, I don't know,
Yeah.
it wasn't going to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, it's been tough like that. I think the only one that's kind of comparable, Umar and Merab.
Yeah, yeah,
Umar and Merab was kind of similar to this, where it was like, if you're a big Umar fan, I could totally see you like trying to edge it towards Umar. But like, if you really look at it, like it was Merab's fight to lose towards the end
yeah,
of it. And it's very similar with this fight. I feel like obviously it's a different fighting style with these fighters. I feel like there's a lot more striking on Jack Dettel Molina, which, dude, his takedown defense was just beautiful, man. Like, just again, the performance of a lifetime. You put it perfectly. Like, it was amazing. It was great to see. And I like Bilal. I'm not a Bilal hater. I said this last episode. I don't hate Bilal, but I still put my money on Jack Molina because it would be crazy if he won. And he
it
won.
was absurd. Like that was a great, like leaving up the card on that like fight and just JDM being the new champion. There was like I'm excited for UFC now, and now we have the stack summer. Like that kind of reinvigorated something in me, It,
Exactly, because we were going into this card saying how dog shit it was going to be, how bad it was going to be, and then or not us, but the
yeah,
fan
the
base was saying
general.
how bad the card was going to be, and it just was already delivering up until this point, and then this happens, and it's like, dude, like even if Bilal won there, it would have been like, okay, this was an okay card, this is like a B, maybe low A tier card, but like this is like a high A tier card, maybe even S tier card if you're a big JDM fan. Like
Yeah.
I loved this entire 315. It was so fun.
I left this card being a huge fan of JDM. Like
Yeah.
I respect Islam, but I'm going to be rooting for JDM against Islam whenever that fight does happen.
Same.
So
Yeah.
anything else from UFC 315 before we head on to the other happenings around the company, as they like to say?
Yeah, no. Other than that, just like bravo, man. A Canadian card that just delivered, dude.
Yeah.
Like we need more of this. This was fun, and I'm excited to see the future ones.
I think, the summer has the potential to be great. All right, so let's get into the news around the UFC. So first off the bat, we knew coming in what the results of this fight would mean. So now that JDM is the champion of welterweight, Islam is going to move up from lightweight and fight JDM for that welterweight. He's going to seemingly abandon the lightweight belt, and because we have a championship fight happening in just a couple weeks between Ilia Topuria, sorry, I don't know, and Charles Oliveira. So your reaction to, I don't know if we talked about being a little bit concerned about the fight week main card because it was in limbo, but it's Ilia.
No, we were saying
Charles.
at the point when we recorded the podcast, it was just broken, like either that day or the day before that Dana said that this was going to be the decider fight. So we did talk about a little bit of what we thought, if I remember correctly, because I was like, this is a huge fight for the UFC. If JDM wins, like huge things are shifting. If Bilal won, like I don't want to say think how boring it would be, but it just think how much it shook up after Bilal losing. And then it's just like, what is the UFC going to do with Bilal next? Is it going to be Bilal versus Sean Brady too? I don't want to see that, if I'm being honest.
I think Bilal gets the winner of Usman Buckley because there's the Usman storyline of them in the podcast, and then
what are they going to do with Brady then?
I think Brady's next, right? He's going to be the next title shot, or
after Islam, though.
Yeah, after Islam, and then Brady gets in there.
Okay, but what about Ian Gary? What about Shavkat? Dude,
Ian's got to fight again. Shavkat's. Let me look at this division. That's what
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. This division's so not screwed. It's if anything, it's the opposite of screwed. They just have gold just all throughout this division, and it's just like, who are they going to match up next? Ian Gary, realistically, all that's left is Ian Gary versus Bilal. Honestly, that might be the fight to make.
Or you do Shavkat Bilal. That's for like a title eliminator, but then Brady's in there too.
No,
I think with Shavkat's performance against Ian Gary and then him also taking all this time off, I think he's gonna have to fight again before he gets a title shot. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, honestly, I forgot about how not shaky, but like how
if he ran
much
through Ian Gary, it's like then maybe he's next up. But it was like that was very close.
Performance. It was a different type of performance. That's a good point. But we also need to remember. Oh fuck! I was about to make a point that was going to be towards Ian Gary. Actually, we remember that Ian Gary took that on short notice.
Yeah,
same with Shavkat. That Shavkat was planning to fight Bilal for that fight.
So Leon's still up there at number 4. I don't know if he is.
Leon. Oh my god, dude! I forgot about Leon.
Leon's done though. Like we can.
I think, dude. Kamaru Usman loses. Leon Kamaru 4. Let's get it done. Let's get it done for the worst fucking fight night. That's actually not the worst. It's a decent one, but
I mean, Morales just came up to number 8, so maybe you match him up against Leon or something.
I really like Morales too. I don't know if we were gonna talk much about these other fight night cards, but I was really big on Morales going into this, and I love Gilbert Burns. I love when he lost to JDM on JDM's come up, bro. Oh my god, I was so sad. And this one too, I was so sad that he lost, but at the same time, I bet on Marlon Morales because his fight beforehand, he fight Neil Magny, and it was dominant. Like I really like this kid. This kid's very good.
So back to the welterweight problem. So we have Usman and Buckley.
Is that the only scheduled fight in welterweight right now, other than the
That's
presumptuous
what I was gonna say. The
Islam
problem
JDM?
is JDM he did take damage, so I don't think that's gonna be for a while. Like I think that's maybe like
No, that's the
a winter
if that
fall card.
if that fight was happening first, all this would be a lot smoother. But the fact
Yeah.
that that's happening last, because think about how mad Sean Brady, Shavkat, Ian Gary, even if you think that they don't have much validity behind how mad they are, how mad they would be at not getting a title shot, think about how pissy they're going to be with the like UFC brass. Like
Okay. I think I
I can
figured
only
it out.
imagine. Okay, let's hear
So
it. Let's hear it.
JDM versus Islam, winner or Sean Brady's got the winner. And then Bilal versus Shavkat, that's for a title eliminator. And then Leon, you do Leon, Ian Machado Gary. If Machado Gary wins, he faces like somebody else. I don't want to give like Ian
Ooh.
Machado Gary wants a title shot now. It's like, bro, you beat
Oh.
Carlos Prates, you know?
No, you're actually cooking with do you know about the Leon and Ian Gary beef at
No.
all? Dude, Ian Gary early on in his either MMA or UFC career, it might have been literally in that gray period in between. He got kicked out of Leon Edwards' gym for being like too like about himself and not more for the team. If I might be misremembering, but if anyone in the comments can correct me, but it was something around the lines where literally Ian Gary got kicked out of Leon Edwards' gym, like the English gym that he was training out of, and that's when he went to Brazil and started leveling up. And so that would actually be a really great fight to make. That's a great shout.
All right. Let me Hunter, call me. You know,
Literally,
it's
call
not that
this guy
hard.
out. That's actually a really good shout. I love that fight.
The only problem is that, well, then you're waiting for the winner of Kamaru and Buckley, but like they wouldn't even be like top 5.
Yeah, the thing about Buckley, I love Buckley. If there was anyone out of the welterweight run that I would love to see win the title the most, it would probably be Buckley, especially before JDM won. Because like now I've kind of like gotten such a warm spot to JDM after him winning. I was kind of hard on him going into that fight, especially on the show. I was very critical of him, but I do like him. I think he's very good, and I just would love to see Buckley win. You know,
Yeah.
something
I'm an
about him.
Usman guy, so this is gonna be my one last fight for
Really?
Usman. Yeah, if Usman wins this one,
Oh, I
I'm back in
forgot
the
about
train.
that.
But if he loses, you know, I think it might be done with the knees and stuff. We'll have to see
Yeah.
how it looks. Also, that's coming up. That'll be a week after this pay-per-view. So Atlanta looks good. I mean, these summer cards look really
This
good.
whole month, this next 4 weeks, us as UFC fans are eating.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So in addition to Ilya versus Charles, we have Kai Kara France and Pantoja as a co-main event. That's nice that they're able to get a second belt on there. You know, Kai Kara, I think his last fight was destroying Steve Urcheg. So flyweight we know isn't the most competitive division, but there's always fun fights to make in flyweight. So we'll see if KKF can pull off then upset most likely against Pantoja. I'm not assuming he'll be a favorite over Pantoja. You know, Pantoja's ran that division for a couple of years now, so I
Oh,
like
yeah.
that one. Like that addition to the card. Um,
That's a great card in general. I love the Beneil Dariush Renato Moicano coming back and doing that fight,
yeah,
because that was a fight that I was really excited to see how it went, and then that I'm pretty sure I was on the show again for that before that fight when no, we
we
did the
were. It
whole
was
predictions,
Islam. Yeah,
and then it swapped. Oh my god, dude, I was so excited for this fight, and then it swapped right after we did it,
yeah.
and
I'm glad they're giving it back to Dariush though. You know, he's been sitting around. I know he got paid for not fighting, but
Yes, but he deserves to get an actual high profile fight after his last 2 fights being Charles Oliveira and Arman Sarukian. Like, dude, I'm very excited to see him do his thing, and to see if Renato Moicano is really bad, because I feel like this is a true test. Instead of Renato Moicano stepping up from Jalen Turner to fucking
yeah,
Islam, I'd rather much see, or was it no, it's Benoit Saint Denis and then
yeah.
Islam, and yeah, I'm excited to see. This is very big for the lightweight division, in my opinion. With the right kind of win here, I could totally see this person moving up and getting a title eliminator, not a title challenge, but a title eliminator after. And
I'm down.
The other fight that I'm so excited for this card for is Brandon Royval versus Manal Cap.
I know. I saw that one on the prelims or something. I was like, I know it's
It
flyweight, but damn.
right here it's saying that it's top 4 fights. In UFC stats, it's saying that it's in the top 4 fights. It's above Paulo
Okay, good.
Costa. So I think it's going to be main card. But it is I love both of these guys. When Brandon Royval did his thing against Tyra, I believe that's who he beat. And when he did his thing against Tyra, I was like, okay, this guy's actually really freaking good. Like when he had that close loss to Pantoja, I had my money on Royval, and I was really hoping he was going to win. He lost. He ended up beating who did he beat after that.
I just had it up.
He
Moreno.
beat Moreno. Yeah, he beat Moreno right after that in another close fight, which I feel like every flyweight main event, like any flyweight fight that goes 5 rounds is so close. Unless it's DJ. But I really am excited for this because I also like Cap coming in. Cap is a very aggressive flyweight,
Yeah.
except for that fight that we saw against Mokaev. I'm just excited to see. I'm just excited to see this matchup.
That was a funny one where they were like talking so much shit and then like nothing happened.
And then imagine instantly getting cut after winning.
Yeah.
Dude, that is the most boss thing I've ever seen Dana White do. Like I don't hate Dana White. I don't love Dana White, but that was the most boss thing I've ever seen him do, was cutting that dude after all the bullshit he fucking put that company through beforehand.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Mokaev does end up back at some point though, if they run out of people for Pantoja.
Totally. Yeah. I don't think he's gonna do it without having some fights in a PFL or a Bellator, and I think he might fall in love with a PFL or a Bellator because they're gonna probably lick his ankles when he goes over there. So yeah.
Last one announced. I believe this is in August. It's DDP and Chimaev. Finally, a date has been signed. You know, there was that little bit scare that maybe DDP was hurt. But this one I think is going to be like, this might be my most anticipated fight of all these fights, which is crazy to say, but like everything that we have booked, I'm so much looking forward to this because it's the true test for Chimaev, the true test for DDP. You know, Chimaev's been the one in the waiting. Like, I just hope, you know, Chimaev makes the fight. It's in the U.S. It's in Chicago, so that's a little bit scary. There's a lot of time to go, so obviously we'll talk more in depth. But I think, you know, so far, besides Tom and John, which, you know, I don't even know if we want to just keep wasting our time talking about that. I think they've done everything they can do to make these title fights as interesting as possible. So really good summer booking by the UFC. I got to give credit where credit's due. You know, sometimes we have a little bit of lackluster schedule, but this summer looks like it's going to be legit, and I'm glad they're taking advantage. You know, NBA is going to be over, NHL will be over. It's prime time for the UFC to take over Saturday night. So hopefully this summer brings everything that it's promised.
Totally. And I think that this has a very similar, like, not to the same extent, but a very similar implications to that it does for welterweight. Whereas if Dricus loses this, or if either person loses, realistically, you look at this whole middleweight division. You see Imavov, you see Sean Strickland, you see Israel Adesanya, you see Robert Whitaker, Kyle Barrio, and who's Robert Whitaker fighting? RDR is coming up in that
RDR,
division.
yep, RDR Whitaker.
And you know, you got Brandon Allen, who I don't really love, but and Anthony Hernandez, Fluffy Hernandez. I like Anthony Hernandez. Like this is a pretty stacked division. Like it's a very exciting division, and I'm very excited to see who wins this. I think it's going to be pretty competitive regardless. I don't really see if Kamzat wins by grappling, I think it would be just dominant in like in the first, second round, like very similar to Robert Whitaker. But I think DDP has a decent enough takedown defense, but it's tough to see against someone like Kamzat, or it's tough to guess against someone.
It's going to be super interesting. That's my most anticipated fight because, you know, I'm a Dricus guy now, so I want him to slay this dragon, and then, you know, maybe we start talking about Dricus as one of the better champs in the division.
That would be very cool.
Yeah. So now we've had 2 fight nights since we last spoke. So the first one you already had mentioned a little bit about it. Michael Morales, first round knockout over Gilbert Burns. That card, to me, on the surface, I didn't know a lot of people. I just knew the main event mostly. So if there's anything else you want to touch on, but I didn't watch much of this either, but Gilbert Burns kind of seems like maybe his time is nearing an end, to say the least.
Yeah. I think that Gilbert
Or do you think
Burns.
it's more Morales is this great prospect?
I do think it is a tiny bit more. Morales is a really good prospect. I think Gilbert Burns could definitely find his way in the, being a little bit more of like a Stephen Thompson kind of like gate. I don't want to say gatekeeper, but like someone to test the people coming up in the ranks to see if they're really of a number worthy, like worthy of a number. And I would personally, in someone who likes to see fighters cut it off early, I I would love to see Gilbert Burns continue. I would love to see Gilbert Burns get another fight and try and just like stop an up and comer that's not maybe as hot as Michael Morales.
Yeah.
I really do like Michael Morales. And there were some other fights that I really liked on this card as well. Julian Erosa versus Costa. I really was going into that fighting for Erosa, betting on Erosa, but I was really happy to see Costa get that win. Like Costa has been looking pretty good against like, I don't want to say low level people, but like non-ranked fighters. He's been looking really good. And I think with a couple more, he just works a little bit more on his striking and stuff. I think he's going to be a really good addition to the roster. And
Okay.
other than that, I don't think really I had
Jared
much else.
Gordon back in the win column.
That is huge for Jared
He's
Gordon.
been screwed over a little bit, yeah.
That is true.
So then we get to last week. Controversial main event, somewhat of a more chill card as well. I wasn't able to watch this. I was away. But Gamrot got a decision win. So I saw on your Snapchat that you were watching this card. So it seemed like it was kind of just Gamrot's back to what we've expected him to be after that. We kind of gloss over that loss to Dan Hooker. Like, I think there's a world where Gamrot got the first and second round. Like, Hooker did look good, very bloody. It was a war, but I'm excited to see what's next for Gamrot. That I think he's in lightweight, right? So
Yeah.
lightweight, kind of the back middle portion. Maybe we see Gamrot versus the winner of like Moicanio or the loser against Moicanio, Dariush or something like that. But what were your takeaways from the Gamrot fight? I don't know who Ludwig Klein is. I don't think I've heard of him before. So
If I remember, Ludwig Klein had a. Yeah, he beat Ignacio Boyamundas, the guy who's on a tear right now in the lightweight division. Boyamundas.
Bahamondes. Okay.
Yeah. He beat him earlier on in his career, and I think he's been like okay. I think it's someone who Gamrot was very much expected to beat, and it's good to see Gamrot in this kind of this form. To be honest, I don't hate Gamrot's style, but I don't really love watching it either. There's other people in the lightweight division that I do prefer more than Gamrot, but again, I don't hate the guy. I'd love to see him climb as well. Whoever is the best in the division, I'd like to see become the champion.
Yeah.
The other person that I saw that was back in the win column, I believe, was Caitlin Vieira, who had just lost to Kayla Harrison.
Kayla, yep.
And it was kind of good to see that.
I didn't realize that she was on that card.
Yeah, she was someone that I would always see on like a parlay and stuff and be like, oh, usually when I bet on her, it usually goes pretty well. Except for when I never bet against Kayla Harrison. I never did that. So, but yeah. But other than that, I don't really think there's much else to talk about in this.
Yeah, Macy and Kayla, that was a sleeper kind of because they're kind of high up in that division. I know
that was a fight that I was actually so excited for, and that's why I posted on my story. I posted on my story the like screenshot of the match being canceled, and I was like, oh, this was a waste of a night, because that was literally the fight that I was so excited for. I could not.
Yeah, so what's your reaction to this? We have Barber pulling out at like seemingly the 11th, like not even the 11th hour, like the 23rd hour and 59th minute. Like, I don't know.
It was literally. Well, I don't know if you saw her. She went on the Ariel Helwani show today, literally today.
Okay, I didn't see it today. Yeah,
She had a interview, and she was like, I was literally warming up, like getting ready, like getting warm and like hitting bags or whatever, and then she just woke up in the hospital.
Oh,
So I like it. It's something that I know that other people are bringing up a lot of things about like her personal life and stuff, and like how she doesn't have that together. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff, like about
yeah,
her, like about that stuff, about how it would affect her or anything. But it is scary to see that happen, especially how she described it, where she described it like pretty nonchalantly too. Like she just was literally just warming up and then just woke up in the hospital room. And it's just like, that is something that I don't know if she should still be fighting at this weight class, or I don't know. I don't know. I maybe it's something that's like in her diet or something that she needs to quit something in her system, but I just
yeah,
do wish the best for her. I was a Macy Barber fan going into her against Erin Blanchfield. To be honest, I think Erin Blanchfield was going to win, but I did have my money on Macy Barber because I like her more as a fighter. But yeah, that's pretty much I feel like I'll say about that fight card.
okay, yeah. I mean, I wasn't able to watch
Unless,
it, so.
yeah,
All right. Anything else before we move on to the
I'm
real
ready.
main event? Okay, so let's dive right in. UFC 316 takes place in Newark, New Jersey. I know they did the Poirier Islam fight here last year, so returning to Newark. You said you were excited for this one. From a betting perspective, this one isn't popping out because there's a lot of lopsided plays, which I'm sure we'll get into if anything's jumping
Mhm.
out at you. But I do think this is a pretty stacked card because I started writing down like the rankings and stuff. There are a lot of rankings and stuff, important potential outcomes of what
Mhm.
could possibly happen. So let's dive right into UFC 316. Of course, always starting with early prelims. We have the first fight, which I didn't even know this fight was happening until I saw it just randomly added to the ESPN thing, which I usually check to see the fight. So it's a lightweight bout between Marquel Mederos, and he faces off against Mark Choinski. So I'm sure this one will be a quick one. Mark Choinski coming in from actually Anthony Pettis's fight promotion. I didn't know that Anthony Pettis had a fight promotion, but
Yep.
he won he won a belt, defended a belt in there. He's 8-0. He's undefeated. Marquel Mederos, this is his fourth fight in the UFC. He's 3-0 to this point, had a win over Austin Hubbard. I know that's a guy. So do you have anything for this first fight of the night, Mederos versus Choinski?
To be honest, no, this one isn't on like my parlay or anything. Um, I do like seeing someone come in on a debut against someone who is on a 3-5 win streak. It's going to be very, I feel like very exciting or very lopsided, and I don't know which way. So I don't really feel comfortable giving much of a like prediction on this because I really don't know I'm not very familiar on both these fighters.
Yeah, I have nothing either really on this one. I mean, I've always said, the first fight of the night, especially when there's someone coming in from another promotion where we haven't even seen them in the UFC, it's like I have other things to bet on. I have other opportunities down the road. So I'll leave this one for now, but hopefully it is fun. This got Choinski's undefeated. If you're really like trying to make a bet for every fight, might as well take Choinski undefeated. Madero, I don't know. This could potentially be close. It could be fun. But I don't even know if I'll be watching this one. So we'll keep it moving. Lightweight division as well. Another one, Quillan Salkilld, I believe is how you say his name. Huge favorite, minus 650 going off or fighting against Yanal Ashmouz. So Salkilld had that 20-second win over Anshul Jobli. UFC 312 has a quick turnaround here for UFC 316. A lot of people were clowning Jubli after that fight, I know. And then Ashmouz, he's been in the UFC for a couple of years. He has wins over Sam Patterson, Trevor Peake. Those are two names I know. Did lose to
Yeah.
Chris Duncan. So, he's fought against some higher level competition. Are you surprised to see some of these odds being as lopsided as they are? I mean,
It's
not
crazy to me.
not
This is
particularly just in this fight, but like in some of the ones we'll get into. Like I feel
in
like
this fight, to be specific, like it's kind of just crazy to me. I mean, these guys are literally very close in age, the same exact record. One guy has less UFC. The guy who has less UFC, the less
experience.
UFC experience is a favorite. And dude, if I didn't see this going into my specific parlay that I put together, but I would have totally put this in on a single bet. I might put it in on a single bet before it goes in, before the fight starts.
Yeah, I
It's
think
a,
this is like a throw a couple bucks on
hell
Ashmouz
yeah.
situation. Like this isn't as far as a gap as Vegas is seeing. Like, and I do think Vegas is very good at predicting other sports like the NFL. Like they destroy wallets on that, and I think the NBA and
Oh
stuff like
yeah.
that. But the UFC, I think there's a little bit of a blind spot where like they, a lot of the public just like randomly piles money on someone like Salkilld, and then all of a sudden he's at minus 650, and it's like, wait, he's not actually that good, is he? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Impressive win over Jubilee, but it's like Jubilee got clowned off the UFC. I don't know if he's probably still on the roster because I think he's the only Indian fighter on the roster. But I don't know. I think I'm in agreement with you. I'm not gonna, like announce this as an official pick to take, but I might throw a couple bucks in Ashmouz, see what's good with him. I think this could be a close fight. Yeah, I mean it's early
Yeah,
prelims,
totally.
so it's like anything can happen. I don't know. Anything else on this one before we move on?
The only thing I would say is I literally put $1.24 on it right as we were talking.
Okay, how much does that pay out?
That pays out. It was like $4. It was like just under $5.
Okay, so quadruple your money right there.
That's what we take. You use plus 400 when I just did it.
Okay. Heading to another fight that's lopsided. This one in the featherweight division, we have Jeka Saragih facing off against Ju Song Yu. So don't know anything about Ju Song Yu. I'm interested to see. Do you know anything about this guy coming in? This first fight in the UFC.
If I'm not mistaken, this guy is a road to the UFC guy. Which I haven't been super. I always watch the clips of it, but I haven't like stayed up to watch the fights of it, and I don't really know what it's like beforehand. And these guys always get it's very similar to like the Dana White Contender Series where they just get super hyped up, so it's hard to tell. Who did you say was the favorite in this one? It was it's Zhang Suo. Bro,
Yeah.
I would definitely throw some money in Jeka here. Again, I wouldn't put him in a parlay, but I would throw $1 on Jeka.
I don't know about Jeka. I mean, he's been in the UFC since 2023. He's 1-2 in that time. Did beat Lucas Alexander, who I know is like somewhat of a name. Not really, maybe I don't know, but he did lose to Anshel Jubilee, which is like very concerning. I guess now that we know that Anshel Jubilee was also in. I don't know if he was in lightweight when he fought Salkilld, but I don't know. I wasn't very confident in Jeka looking at this one, and then also on the other side, his first UFC fight. 8-0 though, another undefeated. I always love how they post like how many more UFC fighters will lose their O, and then they just like add in like 3 more fighters every card who have an O. So, but yeah. So you're thinking maybe Jeka on this one?
I mean, literally just because of how much people have been losing their O, as well as like I feel like prospects from like the Dana White Contender Series have really been getting not fraud checked, but just stopped.
Yeah.
Like I feel like before this, you were very much you'd be very confident in putting your money on a Dana White Contender Series or a road to the UFC guy, and I feel like now, especially with the road to the UFC people, they've been very hit or miss. But when they hit, they hit. But the misses have been misses, which we're gonna get into the fight right after this.
Yeah. So I got nothing on this one either. We'll keep it moving. Last fight of the early prelims, women's flyweight bout. The number 13th ranked Ariane de Silva facing off against Wang Cong. So I was actually surprised to see this Ariane person is ranked. I've never seen them fight, I don't think. So what's your take on de Silva here? I mean, I'm looking at her resume. She did lose to your girl Jasmine in November of 2024. Only real notable one I had was Casey O'Neill, and then she's losing to like Joanne Wood, Molly McCann, Karine Silva.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what she looks like because I feel like I can remember the face very yeah, no, I do know this girl. She's lost a bunch of, I wouldn't say close fights, but I would say competitive fights, maybe is a better way to put it. I don't hate her against Wong Kong. I don't feel comfortable betting on either of these girls. They both have sold my parlays in the past. So if I was to give any word of advice, I would say steer clear of this one. even if the plus 400 seems tasty, which it always seems tasty to me, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. So Wang Cong, I mean, I covered her in the UFC 312. She did get that pretty, like, one of the more dominating wins I've seen in the women's division over Bruno Brazil, where Bruno Brazil just threw nothing, like the forgotten fight nerd. I remember that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Joker, I'm not sure. I mean, I think, like, looking at the like storylines, this is like an easy spot for Wang to just get like the 13th ranked or come into the rankings after this fight, because she has the
Totally.
Joker personality. There's not too many characters in the bottom of women's flyweight. So I think this is set up for Wang to do pretty well. But like you said, like, she could easily just sell this one.
Like
And it's like,
she
I
sold
feel like the
before.
women's decisions are always very close. Like, there's always some controversy, especially early on. I remember, I think it was Tisha Pennington I had a couple of cards ago, and she was like, or I forget, Carla Esparza. It's like every
Yeah.
card there's one of these where it's like you pick someone and then it's like, oh, they probably should have won, but it's like women's fighting, so no one cares. But I do think this one potentially, I'm looking at my classic to go the distance. I don't know what the odds would be on that one, but I don't think, like,
To be honest, with this specific fight, I wouldn't like this one going to distance with this
you
specific
don't think
women's
so?
fight. To be honest, I'll be honest. I think Kong has pretty good like knockout power and submissions. And I feel like maybe the way that De Silva wins is by decision. So I could see that, but I don't know. In terms of women's fight, I would be less secure betting on a decision win here.
I
But
hope Vegas thinks the same way, because usually they're all like minus 400. So that's all I've got. You said steering clear of this one, right?
mhm.
Okay. So we'll head to the prelims. Khaos Williams, Andreas, Gustafsson. This one's been shuffled around a little bit. I think Gustafsson came in at the beginning of this week, if I'm correct. I've heard of Khaos Williams before, but I don't think I've ever actually seen him fight in a card. Looking at his resume, I wasn't too impressed. I know he's kind of like a household name, maybe. And then Gustafsson is, like you mentioned, one of those guys coming out of the Dana White Contender Series. So what do you think about this fight here between Khaos and Gustafsson?
I used to be someone who bet on Khaos a decent amount, but it was tough to bet on him for this fight, and I did not put him in my parlay because he has been selling me. I didn't bet on him in his last two fights because he lost the fight against Brown that I originally bet on him for. I was like, okay, well, he's been winning. Let me bet on him, and then he loses again. And I don't know. I this is more of a spiteful not betting on him, but in the past he's been someone that I reliably bet on. So I would maybe sprinkle him in your parlay. He's not in mine though.
Maybe, this is get back chance. If he wins here, then it's like, okay, he's back to bet on.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, Gustafsson coming out of the Dana White Contender Series, one of these guys who gets a knockout. It's like you mentioned before, I don't know, like, are they going to be come in and be like, I think JDM was on the Dana White Contender Series. Are they going to come in and be like a superhero, or are they going to come in and be like a Janata Deniz and just like fade out and gas out?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a weird one. So yeah, I'm not touching anything on this one. I think this will actually be a close fight, though. I think this could be like a fun fight to watch. Nice one to just sit back and enjoy. Gustafsson, getting settled into his UFC. Sometimes you have guys like Carlos Leal who are like all on the gas in their UFC debut, like real UFC debut, and then sometimes you have like more guys who kind of try and take a more chill approach, like see what's happening. So I'm nervous to pick a side in this one. I'm gonna keep it as it is, and you're doing the same, right?
Yep.
Okay. So moving down the card, we have a heavyweight ranked fight between Serghei Spivac and Waldo Cortes Acosta. I'm realizing now I didn't put in the odds for Waldo, but he's plus 120 on this one. So I have a take on this one, but I'm curious to see what you have to say first and if we align on it. So
the thing that I feel about this fight is I feel like the odds makers are not that far off with Serghei Spivac being the slight favorite here, because Serghei Spivac has had such a tougher strength of schedule than Waldo Cortes Acosta. That being said, Waldo Cortes Acosta has had an amazing run. Like, he's been great in those fights, as great as like a low ranked heavyweight can be. and or unranked heavyweight in some of those fights. And I'm trying to check if I did end up putting. The only thing that I did put for this fight is I did put under 2.5 rounds, which I feel like is usually pretty safe with a heavyweight fight. You could, especially with Spivac being a grapple heavy guy, there's a chance that it might go to decision. So it's a little bit scarier, but I think it's pretty likely to just go under 2.5.
I've got a good stat for you to ease your worries. Spivac, his last 7 fights have all ended early. So
There you go.
there you go.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Spivac, I think you were on when we went over his fight against Jailton Almeida. I mean, he just didn't look good in that one. So I'm going off of like what I know and what I'm feeling. So I'm fading Spivac after I bet him there. I'm going with Waldo. I mean, Waldo's on a crazy run. Like, I know it's heavyweight, so maybe I should retract the word crazy, but it's not like he's beating up on nobodies. You know, he's beat Brzezinski, Arlovsky, Despain, and also Ryan Spann. You know, some sneaky names in there. It's not a big resume win.
Yeah.
You know, Spivac's going against like Jailton and other guys, and
I think Spivac's strength schedule is definitely way higher. Like
it is.
I do agree that there are respectable names in Cortes's or Cortes Acosta's resume. I just think Spivac has definitely had like the weight. Tybora, Gone, Derek Lewis.
Yeah, no, that's like your top. Probably
That's who you fight in heavyweight. Like
yeah.
The Ryan Spans, the Robelis to Spains, the Arlovsky, like Robelis to Spain isn't in the fucking UFC anymore. Like, you know, Arlovsky is one of the older fighters on the UFC. He might not even be in the UFC anymore. Like, you can make these. Span has never really been a consistent fighter. He's never really found his groove, and it's tough to judge these types of fights because Acosta has just looked so good in all those fights. So that's why I can't bet for either. I'm just going under 2.5.
Yeah. I mean, Spivac, I feel like just looks so bad in me in that Jailton fight that I'm just more fitting him here. And then, you know, this is an opportunity for Waldo, Cortes, Acosta. Like, you add Spivac to your resume, and then you like, I'm not sure if he's on a streak or something, but you know,
He is.
There's a lot of turmoil up there in the heavyweight division. You know, I was listening to Tom on Good Guy Bad Guy, and he was mentioning how like no one wants to fight because they're all waiting for the top of the division to shake out. So maybe like once that division gets going, the winner of this could sneak into like fighting like Volkov or something like that. You know.
Yeah, and Derek Lewis was also kind of saying the same thing on Ariel Helwani's show. But in the separate sentiment where he was like, I don't really want a title fight, but no one's really calling for title fights, and no one's really calling for just fights in general. So any sort of movement in the heavyweight division is good. It is so stagnant at the moment.
Yeah. So this, I'm actually looking forward to this one. I think this will be a fun one. I'm going to grab Waldo, Cortes, Acosta money line. If he wins, then I'm going to keep fading Spivac. But if Spivac wins, I'll be like, all right, you know, that was just a spite bet. But I'm gonna be interested in Waldo. This kind of this probably be like right around when I'm really like locked into the card, you know. So hopefully Waldo can get it done. Moving down the card, we have another one, another fight featuring a ranked fighter. It's Azamat Murzakanov facing off against Brendson Ribeiro. So originally I wanted to jump all over Azamat money line, but he's just ballooned down to minus 650, which I don't know why I didn't include his money line as well. So do you see anything interesting about a Brendson Ribeiro potential upset here at plus 450, plus 425? Or are you going to go with Azamat?
It's again, I would never put this in a parlay with either fighter if I'm being honest, but Ribeiro as a single like a dollar bet, I wouldn't hate that. But again, it's tough to say. I wouldn't touch this fight personally, but I wouldn't hate throwing a dollar on Ribeiro.
So Azamat is another undefeated fighter on this card. So he's 14-0, 5-0 in the UFC. I'm pretty impressed by his resume. You know, anything can happen. He's number 12 in light heavyweight, so I know light heavyweight's not like the craziest division, especially at like the bottom of the rankings. I think this one is going to end. I think Azamat's going to get an early finish. So I'm going to take the under on this one, under 2.5, see if it's there. Maybe if it's 1.5, I think this one's going to end early because even if Ribeiro wins, like over half his wins are via KO, and then the rest, like basically he only has one decision win, and then 10 of Azamat's 14 wins are via KO. So I think this one ends early. That's what I'm gonna grab here. I was looking for Azamat, but at minus 650, it's like I'm not going through the Peyton Talbot shit again. Like I'm lesson learned.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, exactly.
If it's like over like minus 400, I'm just I'm not touching unless I like the underdog. So maybe Ribeiro is a decent shout, but we'll have to see. Like looking at I think we've been at 3 or 4 fights so far that have had like minus 600 or more odds. So at least one of those is guaranteed to lose. Just like picking your poison or just not touching those fights and knowing how to actually avoid the traps. Nonetheless, we head to another one, flyweight division. This one is super interesting. Number 12 ranked Bruno Silva at plus 450, and Joshua Van, who's been on a little bit tear there recently, minus 700 for Joshua Van, which I believe is a crazy number.
It's a crazy number.
So, I mean, I've covered Joshua Van in 3 videos so far. He's been going crazy. 306, 310, 313. Got that decision win over Ray Saruya. We were excited for that one. That was a pretty, almost back and forth. He did have the upper hand, and I think maybe Ray won one of the rounds, 2 or 3. But he definitely looked like when I bet on Joshua Van, I know I'm going to get a solid performance. Like he's never going to come out there and be skittish or anything. Like you're getting with him. I wish the odds were closer on this one, but it's another one where I'm like minus 700. Unless you're interested in Bruno. What do you think about Bruno Silva?
To be honest, I don't feel too much about Bruno Silva. This is kind of a very similar feeling to the Spivac Cortes fight where I did under 2.5 rounds, which I also did for another fight in my parlay, but we'll get to that later. And this fight again, it's just too much of a favorite for me to bet. I would love to bet on Joshua Van here. He's too much of a favorite. It's just I can't. It's again the Peyton Talbot stuff. I'd much rather him lose in a round. Or dude, if it's a stinky decision, that would really suck. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they don't have a lot of incentive to like boost up. I feel like if they were going to give rig a decision or something, it would be towards Van, just because he's like somewhat of a name moving up in the flyweight division. Bruno, I don't know. It feels like when he faces that next level of competition, like he's lost to Ulanbekov, Manel Kape, did beat Cody Durden, but it's like I'm not faithful in him pulling this off. So I actually have the opposite opinion of you, though. I think this one goes over. I'm not certain that Joshua Van has this like knockout power. He did get very close in the Chirez fight, I know, in the Sphere. He's a very good technical fighter. Like he wins most of the rounds he fights, but I'm not sure that he's gonna be able to knock out Bruno Silva. Like obviously, I don't see Bruno Silva knocking out Joshua Van, even though Joshua Van has been knocked out before. But I'm thinking potentially over on this one, and then maybe to go the distance as well. So a little bit of difference in mindset there. We get to the main card, welterweight division. Our boy Kevin Holland. Seemingly, we talk about him in a lot of these because he just always is appearing and ready to fight. This time, it's against number 14th ranked Vicente Luque.
It's his 3rd fight this year. I was watching the embedded series this past one today, and it's his 3rd fight this year, which is kind of crazy. It might have been 4th. I forgot what he said. It was either 3rd or 4th, but he is just so active. How do you not love Kevin Holland if you're a UFC fan?
I don't know if you can say love after that appearance on the Rampage. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, yeah, I see that. I see what you mean, but I just mean like as a
fan who wants to see,
as a fan of martial arts, like mixed martial arts, someone who's just jumping in there and who is at a high enough level to get a good fight out of a lot of these guys. I do like Kevin Holland. I know he has some crazy stuff, but as a fighter, I really do like him.
Yeah, so I mean, he was on that card with Leon and Sean Brady, got the decision win over Gunnar Nelson. He looked pretty good in that. I think it's when he fights in this division, right, in welterweight, that he's better, or is it? Because he's always switching back and forth, so it's like hard.
He is always switching back and forth. Yes, I believe welterweight he was ranked in the middleweight he never got ranked in. I don't know if he still is ranked in them, but I don't think he is still ranked in welterweight, if I had to guess. But I think he did eventually get ranked in welterweight.
Okay. So I mean, he's fighting for another ranking here potentially. Going
he got
up
ranked
against...
he got ranked in welterweight and then lost to Michael Page, I believe.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
Michael
I think
Page
I remember
is
him
now
being
15.
like number 15. Yeah.
And now
okay.
Michael Page is now 15. Yeah,
Okay.
probably that's what it is.
So, I mean, we've been talking about Kevin Holland. I'm seeing a similar pattern when I look at his resume. We'll get to that in a second. So, what about Vicente Luque? You know, was that the card that you were at, or you were at 309, right?
Yeah, I was at 309. I did
Okay,
not
so
see Vicente Luque, but
310. He was there, and he got a submission win over Themba Garimbo. I did miss that fight live, so I'm not sure exactly how that went.
it was I do remember that fight. It was good. Again though, I don't really love Vicente Luque. Like he's someone that I don't really see as someone who's moving up in the ranks, but for some reason the UFC really sees him as someone who's like going to move up in the ranks and stuff, and or at least that's how it seems from how they're pushing him. Like you just see his losses to Jeff Neal and Buckley. I mean, he's got a win over Dos Anjos and Garimbo, but like Vicente Luque, I don't really see as that impressive. I think this is going to be a good statement win for Kevin Holland to be that annoying guy to still be in the welterweight division and still be in the UFC. They still have to call out. Vicente Luque called out this fight too. So maybe he might be more prepared. But to be honest, this is the first guy that I have in my parlay that I have as the person, not as over under rounds. It's Kevin Holland.
I'm fading Kevin. I'm going with Luque.
We'll see how it goes.
I'm looking at Holland's resume. It's like 2 losses, then a win. 2 losses, then a win. He just got his win over Gunnar Nelson.
Well, when are the losses in middleweight though?
Yeah, I guess I didn't factor in the decisions. Or factor in the divisions. I don't know. Like, I feel like Luque is a decent enough fighter where it's like, I know what I'm getting with him. It's like with the Kevin Holland stuff, I don't know what I'm getting. It's like sometimes he shows up really motivated, and it's like he has crazy performance wins, and then sometimes it's like, I think it was the Roman Dolidze fight where he's like his rib is done. I mean, I'm not gonna like criticize injuries, and if he actually got his rib fucked up, then like whatever. But it's like it seems like sometimes he's really out there, like, and he's a really good fighter. Like he has grappling skills, he can strike, he can do whatever. But it's like, what version of Kevin Holland are we going to get? Especially since he fights so often, it's really hard to predict. So I think, Luque, looking at his resume, I think those wins or those losses that you were talking about have aged sort of well. Not the Jeff Neal one or whatever one, the first one you said, but Joaquin's a serious contender now. Bilal obviously was champ. Wonder Boy is Wonder Boy. So I'm looking at Luque to get this one done on a card. I usually like to grab 2 or 3 underdogs, and we'll talk about another one that I wanted to grab that switched instantly in the future. But I'm going with Luque and Waldo, Cortes, Acosta as my 2 underdogs. I think I could do worse. I think I could maybe do better if there's something out there. But just knowing what I know heading into this fight card, those are my 2 underdogs for this pick or for this card. I'm going with Luque in this one. You got Holland, so one of us will be laughing. One of us will be crying after this card.
True.
So it's time to get to a very controversial man, the number 10th ranked bantamweight fighter. It's Mario Bautista.
Is he controversial? Or is it just the whole UFC fandom?
It's not controversial, yeah. It's just it's hated. Facing UFC debut, a very anticipated UFC debut at that, Patchy Mix. So you'll have to fill me in on Patchy Mix because, these guys come in. Patricio Pitbull comes in. I don't really know what's going on. Kaya Sakura. Like, I feel like there's all these guys on the outside. I've only been keeping my UFC blinders on. I don't really follow maybe some boxing here and there, but like not really, So tell me Patchy Mix's story. Is the hype real? And what do you think about his chances against Mario Bautista? Coming in on somewhat short notice, I think Cheeto was in on this one, pulled out. Maybe a couple weeks notice for Patchy.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Cheeto was going to fight.
It was supposed to be Cheeto Mario Bautista. Wouldn't that just be a hilarious fight?
That's crazy. But anyway, but to answer your question, so the way that I understood it from Bellator fans is that Patricio Pitbull is the more like accomplished fighter coming in here, but he's just so much older. Whereas Patchy Mix, if I'm not mistaken, is slightly younger. And as well as Patchy Mix is, I believe, a 3-time champion in Bellator PFL or whatever division there or whatever promotion they were in. But Patchy Mix is a big submission guy, which I don't think Mario Bautista has really seen. And I'm not someone who bet on this fight, but okay, looking at Mario Bautista, he's seen some submission artists, but again, I don't think they're at the same level as Patchy Mix. I do think Patchy Mix, like, that's his bread and butter, is like submitting people.
13 of 20 wins via submission.
Yeah, like he is like about, like, you see that stat, and then if you go back and see his fights, like, he is just hunting for that the whole time. And it's not like Dustin Poirier where you see him hop on his gilly and you're like, oh, he's gonna just pop his head out of this. And it's cool that he went for the thing that he always goes for. But like when he goes for it, it's kind of like Charles Oliveira, where it's like, it's tight. Like, he's going to get it here. Unless it's an Arman Sarukian who has crazy flexibility. But I do like Patchy Mix here. I did not put this I did not have the heart to put this fight on my parlay because I so badly want Mario Bautista to lose.
So you think you're just like seeing red?
Yeah, I'm seeing red, and I don't want to bet on this, because if I was to bet on this, obviously I'd bet on Patchy. But if I was a smart person betting on this, like we'll go on later, one of my favorite fighters is fighting, and I put a small bet on the opposite side on if he would lose, and I just don't have the heart to do it. I just don't want to bet on Mario Bautista. I'm sorry. I think we all as MMA fans can understand that feeling, and I'm good from this fight, but I'm really excited to watch it, and maybe depending on how it goes.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I think Patchy Mix will win this fight, and I'm confident enough to take him as a parlay piece. So, like you said, it might be head over heart. Sometimes it's heart over head. I got Patchy. I don't think Patchy can be held up against the cage like Aldo was. Like, he's taller, longer, younger. I don't think
more
he's
of a grappler too.
Yeah, he's not going to
fall
into
Aldo's a
those.
striker, so like it's definitely going to play into it more. I'm I don't know about excited, but I'm interested to see how Bautista handles the grapple heavy approach that I would assume that Patchy Mix is going for.
Yeah, I mean, Patchy's got the green carpet for days. It's always hard to tell, like, when people will come in and be, efficient in the UFC. We saw Patricio kind of fade out. Khaos, like, I feel like those big names that have come into the UFC recently, we'll see how Aaron Pico does and Patchy Mix. But it's not always easy to tell how they'll translate, but I'm confident in Patchy's ability.
He's one of the younger ones of the people that are coming over too, which is something to be said.
So I think, I forget, was it Patchy or Pico who was rumored to be fighting against Evloev? I think that was Pico, right?
Yeah, it was Pico. I believe that was.
So
Pico, I believe, is still going to fight Evloev.
Okay. So I will say Bautista's resume, he is the number 10 bantamweight, but I feel like it's a little bit, it's not great, because you have the Aldo fight, which, that's not really aging that well with Aldo's recent performances. I think I got Patchy confidently here. And then I'm also going to grab that specific method one. I'm going to grab by submission. That might be fucked though, because, if you're telling me Patchy's like known for being the submission artist, then that might be not great odds, but hopefully there's some odds on that one.
If you got it earlier on, I think it would have been good. But I think by now it's probably a little bit screwed.
Yeah. So this one's actually the weirdest one, because I was doing my research. I always do it like Sunday or Monday before fight week, just so I know what I'm doing. And then if like things get subbed in, I can make those changes later. But
this one switched?
Yeah. So but when I was running my notes, Patchy Mix was plus 240. I don't even know.
Dude, if that was the case, I definitely would have put a bet on him.
Yeah.
Oh,
I should have slammed that. I don't know what happened. So now he's like a moderate favorite at minus 180. So I don't know if that was like an error on ESPN, because sometimes the odds aren't accurate even on the UFC website. Like, they're horrible. So I don't know what the story was with that, but I'll definitely have Patchy in the parlay, and then we'll do the submission. Hopefully it's not like minus. If it's plus anything, I'm definitely going to slam that one as well. So this one should be interesting. That this main card looks pretty decent, honestly. Like, even if we're on opposite sides of the Luke Holland fight, like, that should be a good fight. So
totally, if anything, that makes a good main card.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and especially with this card in general, with how many with how many like steep favorites there are, or maybe not steep, but like just big favorites there are. Like I think it's great to have those kind of fights where it's a Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland.
Yeah, that
And
should be a good opener to this main card.
exactly.
So our last fight before the championship fights, this one was canceled, rebooked. I think this was going to be in the Mexico.
Yes, and then you
Steve
got
Urcheg.
you got the revenge. What's the famous thing? The poop revenge. I forget what it's called. Nah, I thought you would have known it. It was the Montezuma's revenge. That was it.
Okay. So we're
Pooped a lot.
rebooked. UFC 316. Basically, this is the last fight before the title fight. It's Kelvin Gastelum and it's Joe Pyfer. This could be a very big spotlight for Joe Pyfer. I mean, we saw it last time we saw him. He was first round knockout over Marc-Andre Barrial, which now looking at that, I feel like Marc-Andre Barrial kind of fights a lot. But I mean, Kelvin Gastelum, he's been here for like 12 years, been in the UFC since 2013. So what is your take on Joe Pyfer as a prospect? And do you think there's potential trouble in the water here against a UFC vet like Kelvin?
Yes. I think the thing is however this goes, I don't think it's going to go to decision whatsoever, which is why I said this earlier in the episode, but this is the other fight that I have going under 2.5 rounds. And I could totally see Kelvin Gastelum winning this. But I can kind of see the script, and definitely Joe Pyfer is supposed to win this. Definitely. But we'll see.
Yeah, so my imaging for this one, I think it's a Joe Pyfer win by decision. You wouldn't think it going in, but I don't think Kelvin's going to be someone who just like he does get chinned sometimes, but he hasn't ever been knocked out actually. He's only has 3 losses via submission, so maybe Joe Pyfer's the one to break that iron chin. But I think if you're looking at the over and to go the distance, like
And
that could be.
fought Israel Adesanya, like he's fought some killers. The fact that he hasn't
Yeah,
gotten knocked out is pretty nuts.
I mean he's
So,
beat Bisping. He's lost to Woodley, Magny, Weidman, Izzy, Darren Till, like Whitaker, Cannonier, Sean Brady, like.
just got inducted into the Hall of Fame, the UFC Hall of Fame for his fight against
That fight,
Israel
yeah.
Adesanya.
I think it's one of the big ones I haven't watched.
You
From the
definitely need
past.
to watch that if you
Yeah.
haven't watched that. It's definitely a pre-fight on UFC, I believe.
Yeah, I went on a free fight watching streak on YouTube. I love the YouTube. I was watching
They're
like
huge. I love watching
Usman,
those things.
Covington, Jones, Gustafsson.
It makes me want to buy. It makes me really want to buy the Fight Pass. However, I don't know if you've been hearing this is a sidebar, but about they're probably going to be getting rid of Fight
Pay-per-view.
Pass and pay-per-view in general, and
Yeah.
going over to Netflix and stuff. Which if they do that, be so hype, because I've been wanting to get Fight Pass just to go through all the old entire cards. They post them sometimes on the YouTube, which I watch them every time I post them. But I love watching through entire cards of like George St. Pierre, like 199.
Yeah,
Like,
if they go to Netflix, we could have access to like a ton of
That
shit.
would be
We could watch film.
cool.
Like, that'd be crazy.
That'd be so cool. Yeah, I would love to do that. I would love to do that.
All right.
We'll see.
I will say though, it's not for every fight, but if you YouTube some certain countries like UFC, like Asia, I don't know if this is supposed to be like a secret hidden thing, but like
It low key is. It low key
okay,
is.
I'll stop talking.
No. It's not something that you can bring it up, because the UFC America won't. I don't think we'll find this, but
Yeah,
if you're any UFC fans out here that love us, absolutely look up the name of the fight that you want to see, or just look up UFC Asia or UFC India or UFC.
I think it's
any country.
I forget what the one is. It's like
I think it's China.
maybe there's like one that like covers multiple regions. I think it's like Europe.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't
there's
remember
one
the
that
name.
has a lot of fights, if that's what you're interested. So I'm grabbing Pyfer. I think Pyfer is going to win this fight. I don't know if it's going to be by decision. I don't think he's going to break the iron chin of Kelvin Gastelum so far. I think Gastelum's someone who's going to stick in there and maybe even win a round of this fight. And we're like, is Joe Pyfer as good as we think he is? Because Kelvin Gastelum's not someone I'm going to sleep on. But I'm grabbing the over, this to go the distance, and then also Joe Pyfer money line to add to my parlay. What about you for this one?
Again, I went under on the time, but you're making great points. Like, if I was to redo it, I wouldn't hate going over on this one, just because
I think it's really a coin flip, but I'm
doesn't have a granite chin, but here's the thing: is like granite chin versus age. Like Kelvin Gastelum's been in this game for so long. I don't know exactly the age difference between the two. It's only 5-year age difference, so it's but it's a lot of experience difference. I feel.
Yeah,
So
this is like
Kelvin Gastelum might
this is
his
kind of the
chin might
test.
deteriorate. It's tough. Yeah,
This is kind of the test they give you when you're like ready to move up as a prospect. But it's like Kelvin Gastelum's like a big step up. Like it's not just like somebody
totally.
like Kelvin. I'm surprised he's not in the rankings. Middleweight's pretty competitive, but this should be an interesting fight. I think it could be, no matter what happens, I think this will be a close fight, or if it's not, it's going to be like a knockout early fight.
Exactly.
That'll be interesting. So this one definitely got to be seated for this one.
It's either be highlight or interesting. I
Yeah.
agree.
So maybe one that people aren't going to be sitting for and interested in. This one, let's introduce it. Women's bantamweight. We have the champ, Juliana Pena, at plus 500. We've always harped on the champs at plus money. She faces off against the number 2 competitor in the women's bantamweight division. It's Kayla Harrison at almost minus 800. Similar odds to every fight that Kayla Harrison's been in. You have a big smirk on your face, so I'll let you go first with what you have to say on this one, and then we can discuss further.
I love this fight. B, I love Kayla Harrison. So my money is on Kayla Harrison round 2.
Okay,
Just the result, Kayla Harrison to win by round 2 by this, whether submission or TKO or disqualification. But for her to win round 2, that is my bet. It's not on any parlay of mine. It's just a solo bet. There's something in my blood that just feels this one, and I am so excited to see. Even if Kayla Harrison loses, the storyline of Juliana Pena barely edging out Raquel Pennington, which I had money on Juliana Pena, but I thought Raquel Pennington won.
I was gonna say I scored that one for Pennington,
yeah, exactly.
And I had money on Pennington too, so maybe I was biased. But
that's the thing is I had money on Pena and I scored it for Pennington. So realistically, I think Pennington won that fight. But yeah, just and what it's going to mean, because I don't know exactly which way Amanda Nunes is kind of more leaning, but she seems so interested in this fight. I don't know if you remember the press conferences when this fight first got announced.
Yep.
She was in the crowd and they were asking her about it, and it seemed like she was very eager to come out of retirement and fight one of these two girls. I forget if it was more Kayla or if it was more Juliana.
I think it's Kayla, because I think
if I had to bet,
I think Juliana beats her and then they get right back in there. And Nunes probably won. I mean, I'm not even.
She already won. Yeah, they already won one. To do a trilogy, I guess it makes sense. If you don't know anything about the background of both fighters, it makes sense to have a trilogy fight. But if you understand Amanda Nunes versus Juliana Pena's come up versus Kayla Harrison, like, dude, Kayla Harrison is a killer, man. Like, the one thing that I will give credit to Juliana Pena that she's been saying throughout this whole fight camp is we have not seen Kayla Harrison fight for 5 rounds at 135.0. Like, we haven't seen her have to cut down to the exact weight, which I didn't see the weigh-ins today. I didn't see if they made it, or is that tomorrow? I believe it's tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow we'll see if she actually...
this morning when this will be posted.
Exactly. This morning when this is posted, if she makes weight, that's the first thing that's huge. And then the second thing is 5 rounds if it goes to that. But I just have Kayla Harrison round 2. That's what my heart has been telling me.
What about the Catlin Vieira fight where it kind of fizzled out a little bit? That ended up going distance.
Did you see the difference in interactions between Kayla Harrison and Catlin Vieira versus Kayla Harrison and Juliana Pena?
Yes, because
Kayla Harrison wants
Catlin Vieira was like
exactly. Kayla Harrison wants to mess this girl up.
There's a lot of
and so same with Juliana Pena. They both want to mess each other up.
Yeah.
Which, if I had to think of both fighters, all right, and you have to think of this when fighters both get emotional about a fight. When Merab and O'Malley first fought, not this fight that we're about to talk about. When they first fought, and they're both kind of like very emotionally in the fight, like they both wanted to beat each other. Maybe not so much as the Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison. Like, the person with the lower fight IQ is going to lose that fight when it comes to emotions. And I just think Kayla Harrison has a higher fight IQ versus Juliana Pena, who is going to be more emotional and maybe throw that heavy shot that Kayla Harrison ducks under, feints, and then gets a takedown, instant, sub. Or, I could be completely wrong, but I just see this as like a premonition of some sorts. Like I just can totally see Juliana Pena being way too emotional. Same with Kayla Harrison, but I just think she would handle the emotion better and have a higher fight IQ versus Juliana Pena, especially what I've seen through Embedded. Like Juliana Pena.
Yeah. So what's the embedded? I haven't been able to get around to it.
Dude. We can talk about the next fight too, but it's just at first I was very much like, oh damn, these fighters both seem super locked in. And then this most recent episode, and maybe the episode before, I was just like, wow, the fighter that I really thought was going to lose is not looking great. Like they have such a bad attitude about this fight. And that's with Juliana Pena and Sean O'Malley. Yeah. We'll talk about it after. But yeah, it's a very worth the watch. Definitely always watch the embeddeds before the pay-per-views.
Yeah. So I mean, not really much I'm gonna have for this one. Maybe, if I'm feeling, when I go to make my bets, if I'm feeling frisky, I'll throw the round 2 because I do kind of like that. But Harrison almost minus 800. Like, really, we need to see her versus Nunes to get like really good odds on a like fight between Kayla Harrison and somebody else. I'm assuming like Kayla Harrison's going to win this fight. Juliana Pena, I mean, I don't know. The win over Raquel Pennington was sketchy. I mean, the win over Nunes was kind of like a once in a lifetime win, in my opinion. It's not like she's the worst fighter in the world, but she's here. I mean, there's a lot of bad blood in this fight, so this is going to be an interesting fight. Like, there's probably the most trash talk I've seen in a while between a title fight. Most of the time,
yeah,
guys,
especially between a women's title fight for sure.
Yeah.
But also in title fight in general, yeah, you might be right. Like last time one that I can think of is probably Dricus and Sean Strickland.
Probably. Yeah, the first time. I mean, the second time they were kind of more like.
The second time for sure. But I mean, the first time.
Yeah.
And then maybe Dricus versus Israel. Then if you're.
Yeah, that was like yeah. So I'm excited for it just because they've done a good job building this up to be something that's really bad blood. I do think this tends to lean actually towards ending early. I'd be very surprised if this doesn't end up going 25 minutes.
Totally. If I would love to see the round betted on this. I didn't check that. I would have.
I wasn't able to check out. I mean, the props. I don't know when they come out.
I don't think they dropped when I was making my parlay.
Yeah,
because some of them did. It was weird. RI Sportsbook is so weird. I probably should just do FanDuel and cross the border like you.
Yeah. So
it's under 3.5, minus 130, over 3.5 plus 100. So I actually. Okay. That's a tough one to go, but I would go under.
I do like that under. I think Kayla's going to look to get this done early. Obviously, so is Pena, but I feel like I trust Kayla to get this done early. So we'll get to the main event of the evening, a rematch. Show us the shirt, the machine.
Yeah, the machine, Merab, Davalishvili.
I think this one last time was way more close. I remember having a tough time deciding before we had seen these two men do battle.
I didn't.
I think Merab was a slight underdog. I think I chose O'Malley, regretted it. So this time I'm going to look to capitalize on my mistakes from last time. But go ahead, give us the spiel on why Merab will be continuing to have his title run and beat Sean O'Malley again, because I'm sure that's what you have.
I actually have kind of the opposite. I will say, if there was to be a trilogy of Merab and Sean O'Malley, this would be the fight for Sean O'Malley to win. Like, especially before this week's embedded. I know I put way too much on the embedded series, but I just love overanalyzing stuff, and that's one of the things that I love overanalyzing. And at the first two episodes, he's like, yeah, I quit I quit gaming, I quit smoking weed, I quit drinking, I quit partying, I quit J&O. And dude, I was actually kind of like, damn, let me sprinkle some Sean O'Malley money because just in case my boy loses. But then he goes in here and he's watching film of his embedded series and his sparring footage, saying, I just like seeing the cool shit I throw. And he's like, that's like the film he's watching. I'm just like, dude, okay. I was believing in you up until this point. Like Sean O'Malley has always seemed to me like just like the UFC's like young child, like the UFC's youngest kid who they just want to like prop up the biggest, like it's like their young sibling who they just like, he's cool, man, he's cool. Everyone look at
I
him.
swear he's cool.
I swear he's so cool.
No, he
And
does have an audience though. So
and he does. And me, as someone who was originally going into the UFC as an Aljamain Sterling fan, way before the Sean O'Malley fight, and when that happened, I can understand me saying this is very salty. But that's exactly what it was. Every time I saw Merab take Sean O'Malley to the mat in that fight in the Sphere, I got so giddy. Like it was, I'm so excited for this fight. If it ends in my worst nightmares, whatever. Like again, I really do believe in Merab to come back and beat him in the trilogy if it comes to that. I don't see that happening though. I really don't see that happening. Merab just trains. He's too used to already training for what Sean O'Malley's going to bring, whereas Sean O'Malley had to change his whole entire camp to prepare for what Merab's going to bring. And it is so easy. It is, or I shouldn't say so. It is so much easier to find a sparring partner that is of the same style as Sean O'Malley than is to find a sparring partner that is of the same caliber as Merab. And I should say caliber for as Sean O'Malley as well. But I really do believe in my guy. Obviously, this is one of the ones that I am a little bit more nervous of. I will be honest, but I still go with my guy Merab. Like I still ride with him.
Yeah, I mean, odds indicate it. I'm with the Vegas crew. I got Merab. I just think like I don't know. We can do the revisionist history of. I'm sure you're upset when people are trying to like retcon the thing and give it to Sean based off the decision. I haven't rewatched the fight. Have you gone back and rewatched this first?
I have rewatched it. I can kind of see what Sean O'Malley's saying, where it's a little bit like controversial. I believe he said round 3 or 5 was the one that he was like was controversial about. But I can't really give a full like take here because I can recognize that I am just so biased.
Okay.
I do just love Merab too much.
So I think it's Merab. I mean, Sean O'Malley, I think his chance is to maybe catch Merab, but it's like Merab's never been caught. Like I don't know. I don't think it's. I
He
mean,
hasn't been caught in a long time. He's been caught, but
he got caught
it was
one
a
time
while ago.
against.
And I don't know if you saw the recent things that the UFC's been posting, but if Merab gets this win, he's in the 13 win streak, which just puts him in like, I forget the list of athletes that are in this, but it's like the John Joneses, the Khabibs, the George St. Pierre's. It's like a crazy list of people, like the Max Holloways, the people who went on the craziest runs that you can think of. Yeah. Like I think he's tied with Tony Ferguson when he went on his crazy run right now.
So I just think, I mean, Merab is just a better fighter overall. Like the striking, maybe you have an argument with Sean, but it's like, yeah, even then, that's the
only way that you can argue that Sean O'Malley wins. There's no way that you can argue to me that Sean O'Malley wins a decision, and there's no way that you can argue to me that Sean O'Malley wins a submission.
Yeah, I mean, Merab, I will say it didn't look like he was some crazy fighter in the first fight. It was kind of like more subdued action. But
then you see the
Umar fight. That's what I was about to go to. That's like, I'm not betting against Merab. And, I feel like recently I've been trying to bet off momentum. I'm not going to change course here. I'm going to stick with Merab. Sean, hopefully he has done work to improve. I know Chael was talking this week about him like going down is featherweight up or down. Featherweight would be
that'd be up.
Okay, so up one division. If he
loses, he just wants to fight Aljo again. That's all it is.
Get back with Aljo.
Yeah, Aljo doesn't have a fight right now. He just fought to the guy. He just lost to the guy who is going to be in the title eliminator. Like that's probably what he's moving up to do, is to beat Aljo, or try and beat Aljo, and then go on to Evelev or
Volk. Yeah.
No, Pico's who Evelev's fighting, right?
Oh, okay.
Because Evelev, I'm betting on Evelev versus Pico. Sorry,
I don't even know when that is. Nonetheless, though, I think writing's on the wall for Sean. I mean, he had a good run. For him to make it as far as champion, that's pretty respectable. And he did have one defense against Cheeto. But I think Merab's on a generational run. I mean, Merab's won 12 straight fights. And, I don't want to – one of my biggest mistakes on this show is always I gassed up Leon against Bilal, and it was like, oh, I was an idiot. Like, of course he's going to lose to Bilal and just have this random performance. But it's like there are outside circumstances that affected that fight, and maybe Leon's just kind of lost his fastball. And Merab, I think, is still in the prime of his career. He's up there. I mean, a lot of people are talking about him in the bantamweight GOAT status. I just think he's going to win again and retain this belt. I don't know who would be next in the bantamweight division.
It's going to be
Oh, Jan's
like
up there.
yeah, it's going to be either Jan or I could really see the UFC just forcing whoever. Oh no, it's going to be Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen will probably have to fight. No, he's not gonna. They're not gonna make him fight Umar again. It's going to be Umar versus Peter Yan. Corey Sandhagen, I think, is going to jump the gun and then fight, and then Davison Figueiredo versus Marlon Vera. Boom. That's
I like it. Yes, I mean, I think Merab is looking pretty good here for a while. I don't think any of those guys are going to come and get after him, but I could be wrong. Like, all of a sudden Sean wins, and then it's like, what the hell? So one thing I do want to talk about is, this is not a Merab fight lead up. If there isn't all sorts of toe injuries and there's a cut on his head, any level of concern with that, or do you think that's like part of his strategy?
I don't think it's part of the strategy. I think it's definitely legitimate. I think the more interesting thing is to see what injury Sean O'Malley makes up for after the fight, because he never says what injury he has going into the fight.
It was the hip. He got a hip
fighters, but he doesn't say it
like,
before. He says it after, which I get why a fighter should do that. Merab should do that instead. But I'm excited to see what injury Sean O'Malley comes up with afterwards, and not maybe comes up with. That's very facetious of me to say, but whatever injury Sean O'Malley also has after the fight, I'm sure it'll be. I just can't believe that I feel like we're glossing over this. I don't think we ever talked about this when this fight got announced. Why the fuck is this fight happening? Like, Sean O'Malley didn't do anything, and it was such a lackluster fight for him. Again, I rewatched it very briefly, and I'm such a Merab fan that I can understand that I have a bias. But I feel like any UFC fan can see this and be like, give him a fight against Corey Sandhagen. Give him a fight against Umar. Give him a fight against Peter Yan again. Like, he needs to fight someone else before he gets another title shot. He got one defense against Chito Vera, who I think was like number 6 or 8 when he fought.
He was
for the
6,
belt. Yeah. So it's like when Merab was already number 1 on a 14 fight win, or on a 12 or 11 fight winning streak, or 10 fight at that point. But
well, I think, Sean even admitted it. He's got the Dana White privilege. That's why I think he should have maybe taken a couple months off and then gone against like a Corey Sandhagen. I mean, it's all wrestlers in this division at the top, so it's tough for him to.
That's kind of just how it is for these lighter maybe not even lighter division. This like bantamweight to like lightweight division is just the grapplers. I feel like are more frequent and far between.
Yeah.
Versus like below the flyweights kind of are more of a mix, and that above the welterweights to the light heavyweights are much more like strikers. If you have a grappler, they're more of like a diamond in the rough kind of guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm in on Merab. I'm going to throw him on the parlay. I also think, sneaky, not sneaky, everyone kind of knows it, but 15 of Merab's 19 wins are via decision, so I think it's going to be the same thing. Maybe he tries to prove a point like Dricus, like just completely dominating this time, leave no question.
He said this. I don't really believe him. I believe that I think Merab kind of just gets into this like mindset where he's just used to going to decision every time and in like sparring and stuff, where he just kind of is like, well, I'm winning. Let me just keep on winning, or if I'm up 3 rounds, if my coach tells me I'm up 3 rounds, what am I going for a knockout for?
Yeah.
I got 9 takedowns in the first 3 rounds. What am I going for a knockout and a submission for? Like, I can totally see him not going for that. I could totally see him going for that. I think going for a decision above on time here is definitely big. If you don't feel comfortable betting on either guy. No, if you don't feel betting, because that's tough. Because Sean O'Malley wins, he's winning in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah.
He's not winning in the last ones.
All right. Anything else on this? Last question. Do you think Merab will go for a kiss again?
No. I think they've been too respectful. They are
like friends now.
And I think if anything, he's going to be so annoying on the prep. I love Merab. I hate I hate hearing him talk low key when he gets the mic at like a press conference or after a win. It's just so long. I like hearing what he has to say, but the way that he gets it out, I know that English isn't his first language and stuff, and he just finished like a grueling fight. But like he's one of those guys where it's just like he's gonna spend like 20 minutes being like, in Sean O'Malley, you were a great contestant, and Tim Welch, you're a great coach. You teach him very well, and he's gonna go on for so long, saying how they're great people. And I think it's gonna be very kissy, but not physically. It's gonna be verbally kissy.
Okay, well, I saw the press conference was posted today.
I'm definitely gonna watch that right after
30
this.
minutes, I think. Yeah, so I'll have to check that one out. See how. Usually, I like to make my picks before and then.
And
what were you saying?
just a quick one right now. 1-point game, 110 to 109. Game one of the NBA Finals. 22 seconds left.
The Pacers were down big. All right,
they were down big, and they just. I've been watching this on my bottom screen muted just the whole time, and I've just been seeing the score slowly get closer and closer. This is crazy.
All right, let's go Pacers. Let's get out of here. All right, so official picks. UFC 316. You had your parlay. Do you want to give it again or?
Oh yeah. Let me give my quick parlay. Just anyone who wants to follow me. Mine is Joe Pyfer, Kevin Gastelum under 2.5 rounds, which I'm a little bit shaky of. If anything, I would go with these top four. Serghei Spivac versus Waldo Cortes Acosta under 2.5 rounds. Joshua Van versus Bruno Silva under 2.5 rounds. Kevin Holland versus Vicente Luque. Kevin Holland money line. Merab money line, and that is a plus 1,613.
Okay.
Parlay. 4 leg. 5 leg.
Salute. All right, so my picks, I mentioned before, I got my two underdogs, Cortes, Acosta, and Luque. Maybe one of them will hit. Hopefully one of them hits at least. And then the parlay, I went a little weak. This might have bad odds, but hopefully, it's good enough to get a plus sign. We got Patchy, Joe Pyfer, and Merab. And then on the overs, going bold, Gastelum and Pyfer paired with Silva and Van over. Probably not going to hit, but fuck it.
That's not a bad over parlay, though.
Safe parlay. Or not really safe because you didn't think that this one might go the distance, but Cong and De Silva to go the distance, and then Merab and O'Malley to go the distance. So maybe they give us a little bit of odds with them. De Silva and Cong fight to go the distance. Could be decent odds there. So those are the 5 picks. Hopefully we'll have some winners. Anything else before we wrap up? UFC 316.
My other pick, hammer in Kayla Harrison round 2. I have a premonition. Wait for it to happen. Watch it happen.
Oracle.
Shane called it.
The Oracle saw Kayla Harrison in the second round. You want to give a minute while we're at it?
Minute is going to be it's going to be mid 3 minutes in on the clock. So like a minute into the minute and a couple of seconds in.
I like that a lot. All right. So we'll try our best to be back for International Fight Week. And then,
huge fights for that.
Buckley is in between. So it's really, there's a lot of stuff happening. Usman Buckley. So UFC is popping. We'll get out of here. We got to watch the end of this game 1 finals. So thank you guys for sticking along this whole video. Shane is on Instagram, Twitch. I'll plug his stuff in the chat or in the comments. So as always, be easy, guys.